On November 13th, 2021, around 11:30 p.m., at the intersection of Arenal Road and Tapia Boulevard Southwest, a small black four-door sedan hit and run 20-year-old Marcos Baca. The vehicle that struck Marcos should have heavy damage on the passenger's side rear door and fender, with possible scorch marks. If you know someone who has information about or witnessed the hit and run that killed Marcos, you could be eligible for a $7,500 reward. Please report any tips you may have to Crime Stoppers at 505-843-STOP or online at p3tips.com/531. You can remain anonymous. Thank you for your help. #Justice for Marcos. Welcome to the What's Up ABQ podcast. A warning for listeners that this episode focuses on an unsolved violent crime and may not be suitable for some listeners.
Good morning, Albuquerque. This is Lindsay.
This is Lorenzo.
And today we are actually recording an episode that is very different from our normal episodes. We are going to be talking about something that is very serious in nature. So if you have younger listeners, you may want to just kind of preview this before you let them listen, because it is a very serious topic today. And I know that we don't normally do super serious things. We try to keep it positive, but this is important because this is about somebody in our community, and we are a community, and we want people to realize that the actions of some affect others, and it's a big deal. And so we're taking a little bit more of a serious note today on our podcast, and we really want to get some awareness out there and talk about this issue because it is important. We would like the community to help if they can. So today we have with us...
My name is Vanessa, and I'm here today to talk about the unsolved vehicular homicide of my boyfriend.
And obviously this is a really hard topic to talk about because he was a person that was very important in your life, and you're still dealing with that loss, and you think about it every day. And like she said, it's unsolved. So we want to kind of talk about, first of all, sort of who he was as a person, because we want people to know that this is not just another billboard. This is somebody, and this is somebody's life. So tell us a little bit about who he was as a person.
Well, to start things off he was the nicest person you could ever meet.
So we're going to kind of talk about this, and we're going to take our time because it is a really, really tough topic, and it's hard to talk about. So, take your time. It's okay.
Okay. I think I'm good.
All right.
So Marcos, he was the type of person that he did everything he possibly could for the people that he loved. That was his everything in life, is his family, his friends. He was involved in so many people's lives, and he impacted so many people. He was a very positive, motivating person. He wanted everyone to be the best that they could. That's what he strived to see in everyone. He cared so much for everyone that was involved in his life. He was the type of person that he just wanted to see everyone at their best. He impacted a lot of people. He was such a positive person, and he was a family guy. He loved his family with everything in him. And a lot of people mentioned that Marcos, he lit up the room, and it's true, he really did. He was always the life of the party, and he was just so amazing to be around.
How did you guys meet?
So me and him, we kind of knew of each other. We had mutual friends, but finally one day he texted me and he asked me to hang out, and that's kind of how things started off. And so we started just kind of hanging out, and of course it grew into more and more and more. But that's kind of how it started.
What sort of hobbies and interests did he have?
So he was involved in a lot of stuff. Mostly it was his motorcycle stuff. His dad, restores vintage motorcycles. And so naturally that got carried on to Marcos. And so they shared that passion of motorcycles with each other. But besides that, Marcos, he basically did all sports in high school. He did kickboxing after high school. What else did he do? He was all over the place. It was honestly really hard to keep up sometimes.
So he was an athlete. He had a really good relationship with his dad, sounds like.
Yeah. So he was a good person, very fun to be around, always doing something. He was a really, really big music person. He listened to every genre that's out there. He was one of those persons that he could get down to anything.
Did you guys have a song that you both enjoyed a lot that was, are you kind of a common favorite song or anything like that?
We have a bunch. Me and him, we were constantly making playlists for each other. There's a lot. I don't think we could pinpoint just one. It really depended on what we were listening to, but it's all over the place.
So you both just loved music together?
Yeah, definitely.
So tell me a little bit about your relationship leading up to what happened, and then you can kind of talk a little bit about what happened. What were his plans for the future at that point?
So he was actually supposed to go to the Marines. He was trying to get in for a really, really long time, but he had got denied for a little mess up in his paperwork, and it went through. So he got accepted pretty close to when the accident happened, and he was supposed to go to boot camp sometime in February. So that was his main ideal.
So it sounds like he had a bright future ahead of him. Obviously, he had a bright past behind him too. And it sounds like he was very loved and just very integrated into his family and friends and the things that he cared about. So tell us a little bit about sort of what led up and then what happened, when the date was and sort of what happened.
Okay, so Marcos's accident, it happened on November 13th, about midnight, around that time.
This year? Or, I'm sorry, 20?
Oh, yeah, it's, 2021, yes. Yeah. And so the story, it's really intense. Back to his passion for motorcycles is he raced at Sandia Speedway. And so that night, they actually had a banquet and they were giving away awards. And that night, Marcos, he got his expert license so that he could, basically he'd be rolling with the big guys now. But so that night he had attended the banquet with his dad, and he got so many awards, so many on top of his expert license. And that night, him and his dad, they brought separate vehicles. Marcos, he was on his motorcycle, and then his dad had brought in the car, and Marcos was following his dad home, and that's when the accident happened.
So, and if this is too hard to talk about, that's okay. Just let us know. Can you let people know who are listening sort of what area of town it was, where it happened, and what happened, and kind of what people should be aware of to be able to help his family if they need to?
So the accident happened in the South Valley. It happened on the intersection of Arenal and Tapia. So what kind of happened is the vehicle that hit him, I believe that they ran the red light. It's not very specific in the police reports, but it does clearly state that Marcos had the right of way, and he was hit. So the vehicle wasn't supposed to go, and unfortunately, Marcos, he did get struck, and he was killed on impact. Okay. So Marcos, he was struck on impact by the vehicle that failed to yield the right-of-way to him. Since Marcos was following his dad, he didn't notice what happened right away. He was a couple of yards ahead of Marcos, and he kept looking back and didn't see Marcos's headlights, so that's when he got concerned, and when he went back, that's when he found Marcos in the middle of the intersection.
I can't, as a parent, I'm getting like really teared up, I'm sorry. As a parent, I can't imagine finding that or turning around and seeing my child like that.
Very tragic.
I'm sorry. I'm like, floodgates now.
It's a hard story.
And there wasn't a description of the vehicle or anything like that?
So, we were able to obtain some footage that it's posted around, but it's blurry. But the description that was given of the vehicle is that it's a 4-door sedan, dark in color, and the damage that was sustained to it, it's on the passenger side, rear door, and fender area. But it's supposed to heavy damage to that back side, and then we're not 100% sure, but it was supposed to, we're not 100% sure, but there may be scorch marks on the vehicle, because a fire did break out on impact, but of course we're not able to completely confirm that. And then another big key factor in this is the vehicle. There's a very specific sound to it. It makes a very deep rumbling sound, and it's very specific. It's very unique.
Is this like from a modified muffler or something, or where does the sound come from?
So it sounds like the muffler that it's either modified or possibly broken. We're not sure, but there's something definitely making it. There's something to it that gives it that sound.
So they obviously had some camera footage, like you had said, on the street lights. Or no, they didn't. Okay.
It was a Ring camera.
Oh, wow.
It was a Ring camera.
That I didn't know. So it caught it on a Ring camera.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. And they didn't know what color car the car was or anything like that, obviously.
So that's another thing that's very confusing with the case is we were able to get the headlight. I mean, not the headlight. We were able to get the side mirror from the car, and it's black, but there was also pieces recovered from the car, and they're gray. So we're not completely sure on what's going on with the car color, and so it's very vague.
So it could be like a car that might have different pieces of body work that's like been done, so it might have like a different color fender than the rest of the body and things like that.
Yes, exactly.
So, I think what's important to point out here is these kinds of things happen more, I think, than we hear about. And I know this year has been especially hard in Albuquerque. We had the hit and run of the child down by River of Lights earlier. And these things happen a lot. They don't always get solved right away. And it's important to put that information together, because the more information you have, the more leads you have. Mm-hmm. And so it's really important, if you are out there and you're listening and you know somebody that has a car like this, or you have an idea of like, hey, I think I saw that car driving around on this street at this time, please tell somebody. Even if you're wrong, it doesn't hurt to give the information. So that the proper authorities can take care of it and they can take a look at it. It's not going to hurt anything.
Yep.
And that's the one thing we always try to emphasize. Like, we're a community, Albuquerque, like, the right thing to do. If you have any information on this, please, please, please call somebody, give them the information you have, because this is somebody's son. This is somebody's boyfriend, fiance. This is somebody's, child. It's important that they get closure and that they know what happened. And if you are listening and you think it might have been you, you need to turn yourself in. Like, plain and simple. You're not going to live with this on your conscience for the rest of your life. And I say that, and I get really heated about this, but like, it will come back to you. So please do the right thing. This is your sign, if you will.
This tragedy, kind of for me invokes outrage. You know what I mean?
And it should.
In our community, you're talking about the hit and run at the River of Lights with that little boy, and then this. I get so angry that these sort of things happen in traffic, and I don't know. Just wanted to say.
Yeah, no, I think it's important that part of what we wanted to do on this podcast is talk about who Marcos was as a person, because whether you realize it or not, your actions have consequences. They affect people. It's really easy to walk away from something and not know the person that you're affecting. Right. But it is a lot harder to know the people involved in that person's life. And it is a lot harder to think about, how that affects somebody else on a personal level. And so it's really important that if something happens and you have information, that you please bring it forward. It's the right thing to do. And, even if you haven't made good choices up until now, make a good choice and do the right thing, because it is important. And this family needs closure. It's not an option. They need the closure. We are going to go ahead and take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Every day, you count on your heating and cooling system to be ready to handle the extreme temperatures. Call FRA Muniz Plumbing and Mechanical right away if your heating or cooling system is malfunctioning. FRA Muniz Plumbing and Mechanical has been fixing and installing HVAC systems throughout the Albuquerque metro and surrounding areas for years. They've been the leading provider of comprehensive care and top-class HVAC service and installation since the early 2000s. When you choose FRA Muniz Plumbing and Mechanical, you'll get contractors with a history of excellence. Call today, mention What's Up ABQ, and receive 10% off for the month of May on repairs and installation. Call FRA Muniz Plumbing and Mechanical at 505-203-6415 or visit their website, framechanical.com.
Okay, we're back.
So something that was interesting that you were talking about was the intersection. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so that intersection, it's problematic. I've talked to 3 other women who have lost their partners from that intersection in very similar ways. So it's not...
I think I know what intersection you're talking about. Is it close to Rio Grande High School?
Yes, it is.
So you said Tapia and Arenal, right?
Yeah, Tapia and Arenal. So I've spoken to 3 other women who have lost their partners because of that intersection. And we were never able to get a full answer about that intersection, but I'm going to kind of dive into the story real fast. Sure, when Marcos's accident first happened, the first thing that we were suggested to hunt for is if there was street cam footage available for his accident. And that's where things get very, very confusing. So to start things off is the deputy that was in charge of Marcos's accident. We couldn't get a hold of him, so we couldn't find out if that footage was available for a really, really long time. He didn't get back to us until 5 weeks after the accident. So we kind of had to go another route. So to start things off is I had gone to a sheriff's office and I had asked them how I go about this process, because I had no idea how to deal with obtaining public records like that. And what was kind of shocking is they told me that I was the first person to go in to ask about something like that. And to me, that was really shocking because cases like this happen all the time. And I wouldn't think that I would be the first person to ask about something like that. So they were definitely, they didn't quite know what answers to give me, but they were able to get me in contact with a supervisor. And it took a couple days for that supervisor to call me. But when she did, she wasn't sure if those quote cameras were cameras or sensors. And so okay, so first off is the people that I spoke to at the sheriff's office, they were pretty sure that they were cameras just because they kind of knew that intersection. And so they were pretty confident that they were. So I took that. I was like, okay. I kind of relaxed a little bit. And then when I finally heard back from the supervisor, she was really confused because she was like, I remember she asked me, who told you that they were cameras? And I said, you guys did. So I'm kind of confused on what's going on here. And she kind of chuckled and she was like, I'm not sure. I can't provide that information with you. And I was like, okay, well, that's not very helpful. So, like, what can you do for me? And so she said she would note it in the file that we need that footage urgently. Like, it's important. It's super, super important. And that was kind of the end of that conversation. And then that was on a weekend. I spoke to that supervisor on a weekend. And then I got contacted by a retired police officer, and of course he was very upset with this case. He thought it was ridiculous that the person hasn't been found yet, and he actually shared a lot of information with me, and he directed me to how to process obtaining city records. So oh my goodness, I went everywhere. I went to the sheriff's office again. I had to do an IPRA request.
Yeah, and information, like a public records request, right?
Yes, yeah. And I wrote a huge thing, and to sum it up, I just said that I really, really need to get my hands on this footage if it's available. All I got sent was the police reports.
It was like circling back around to square one again.
So, and that was from Bernalillo County Sheriff's? That's who you made the request to, was Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department?
So I made the request with IPRA. IPRA is basically kind of just city records. It's the not company, but it's the website that you obtain stuff like that.
Yeah.
I guess my question to, the powers that be is, why is this information or even like a way to get this information so elusive for people who need it? Like, why is it not so accessible? Because to me, if I'm a family member and I need information about a case that I'm involved in directly, that should be a no-brainer. It should be really easy for me to get that information because I have a right to it. And so it's really frustrating, you're saying that they kind of sent you in circles, more or less, only to come back to square one and just get the police report again. I think that that's something that needs to be changed and kind of looked at in our system, because people that are involved in an open case should have access to their own information and to the information that can help the case.
Yeah. Especially with these traffic accidents. I keep coming back to thinking about just even in the last couple years, these high profile situations where people have died from street racing or negligent driving or just going way too damn fast. I'm sorry, no,
we live off of Montgomery. We hear it every night. I mean, we hear it all the time. So
I mean, I've lived here. I've lived in Albuquerque most of my life, and it feels like it's getting worse.
Yeah, it really does.
And I know that the city's trying to do things with like the red light cameras. Like they had the red light cameras for a while, then they took them away. Now they're back. Is this really going to help? Like there was the situation with the Mustang driver that almost tipped over the bus. There was the priest who got T-boned and passed away. Your fiance, the little boy. Like, when does this stop? When do we say like enough is enough? Like it's just makes me angry.
Right. Well, and I think the other thing that we need to ask ourselves is like, what are we doing? What are we doing to help these situations or to stop them from happening or to make people accountable when they do? I think accountability is huge. And I think that there's obviously, I get that APD is understaffed. I understand. But that doesn't mean that people don't deserve justice and they don't deserve fair service when something like this happens. And so that's where I get really irritated, because just because you're short-staffed does not mean that you don't do your job and you don't do it well.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot that I don't know about law enforcement and like everything else, but it's just you have to ask why. I don't know.
So that obviously happened back in November. I keep saying obviously today, and I'm not really sure why. That happened back in November. What has been done by the family and by you guys to kind of keep the case at the forefront and keep people aware and keep them informed on what's going on?
So, for starters, ever since that accident, we actively have people that go and kind of roam the area searching for the vehicle. Besides that, we did have the billboards, and those were up for 8 weeks. And then we also have which a lot of people have seen, is the flyer. We break up into groups and we post those in areas that are high traffic, and we flood the southbound with them. We do have some more ideas that we're overlooking and trying to put into play, but it's going to take some time to push those out. But and then we do have a private investigator now, and so people sometimes people will contact us directly about tips or suspicious car, and so now we do have the capability to send those cars in to the private investigator, but so far not much has been found. A lot of people have been sending in tips, and we're so thankful that so many people are out there looking and keeping Marcos's case in their mind. But for now, we've been getting a lot of cars that don't match the description. Like, we're trying to push intensely that it is a sedan, because we've gotten a lot of tips for SUVs and trucks and stuff like that. And, you know, of course, we appreciate it so much that people are looking in, but unfortunately, because of the ring cam footage, we know that it's not that vehicle.
So a lot of the tips, even though you appreciate them, it just kind of makes it more difficult to sift through all of the information if they're sending you like trucks and like that don't match the description.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so my question would be too, what can the community do for you at this point? Like, how can the community help you guys find answers?
So one thing is, of course, just look out for the vehicle. Keep in mind of the description, but also is report it yourself. Because one thing that we've noticed is a lot of people don't like to send in the reports because they think that they might get in trouble somehow, even though they have nothing to do with any of this. So a lot of the times they'll just contact us so that we can do the report instead of them doing it. And it's, you know, we appreciate it, but it does make things difficult, especially when we have to like drive across town to go check out a vehicle. So it does get a little bit frustrating.
So how does somebody report? Do they just have to call APD or Bernalillo County Sheriff's? Like, how does that? And
there is a reward, if I remember correctly, seeing the flyer, there is a reward. You can report anonymously, so your name is not going to be attached to it. If you know something, you can report it and you will not be attached to it. Your name does not have to go on it.
Yes, so there is a $7,500 reward right now, and that's just through Crime Stoppers. There is a group of people that are willing to pay more for information, but with that, you know, for someone to directly come with us for information, you know, you do kind of give up your identity, but you can 100% be anonymous and report tips through Crime Stoppers, or you can report with the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office, their non-emergency line, but they do ask for your information.
We can link it in the show notes.
In the show notes. If you guys are interested or you have any information, we will link it so that you have it available to you. So I guess my question would be like, obviously this has affected your family in a big way and his family. How are you dealing with the loss and coping with the grief part of it? That's a big question, and I'm sorry. I know it's a big question. It's okay. It's okay.
It's been really difficult. It's one of those situations where you can't comprehend what it's like until you experience it. I thought I had experienced like trauma before his accident, but it doesn't compare. It really does not. It's one of those things that there truly is no. You don't get over it. You And
as you're talking, you're touching a ring on your finger, which I think is a big symbol of kind of the loss you're feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I don't want to make you cry a lot. I'm sorry. No, but it's for people that aren't here and they can't see, the lasting impact is huge. It's huge and it's real.
Well, I'm really hoping that there's closure, that closure that will not bring him back, but you need that justice and peace and closure. So I really hope that the private investigator and getting the word out to everybody and all of the hard work that you and your family have been doing to show the description, getting the ring footage, camera footage, and working with Burlington County Sheriff's, APD, whoever else. I really do hope that it
in the community at large, in South Valley especially.
Yeah.
If there's one thing or two things you could say to the person who did this and is still not in custody, what would you say to them?
I would say, you know what you did. Not only did you make the choice to run the red light, but you chose to leave him at the scene. And I 100% fully believe that one day you'll get the same karma. I understand that some people, when they're involved in something like that, they panic and they don't want to sit there and deal with the consequences. But when you don't take responsibility, it makes things worse. If this person would have stopped and at least tried to help Marcos, we would have room for forgiveness, but they made the choice to leave him there. And, we're going to do everything we possibly can for this person to be held accountable.
Well, Marcos was a very loved person, and that's apparent. I think what the community can do too is not forget. The community can keep posting the flyers. They can keep reminding the rest of the community about this until it is solved. I know on our Instagram we try to put something up, actively so that it's always fresh in people's minds. If you would like one of the flyers to put up on your Instagram, please let us know. We'll pass it to you. Keeping it in the forefront of people's minds so that A, it doesn't happen again, and B, there's justice for a family. Because these things don't just go away. It's not just going to go away. The family, they're not just going to stop taking care of business. They're not just going to stop looking for who did this. So it's in the community's best interest to keep it alive, keep it active. And if this is something that you know something about, you need to say something. We said this earlier, but you really need to let them know. You need to say something, even if it's anonymous. You need to come out with the information. You can't go on living your life just pretending like it didn't happen, because it will catch up with you.
And of course, we'll post all of the contact information for how to make a report. Everything that we need to post, we'll put in the show notes.
Thank you so much for meeting with us. I know this is something that is really hard to talk about. I know that it's not a happy topic, and that's okay. But it is a very real and very important topic that our community deals with all the time. So I just want to say thank you for meeting with us.
Likewise. And again, thank you. I really do, again, hope that you find closure. I hope something comes in. And I really do hope for change in our community to prevent future tragedies like this as well. And we'll be here.
Is there anything else that you want to say before we wrap up?
I also want to say thank you, because it's people like you that really help us push this story. And without that, the case would not have the movement that it currently has. And our whole family, we're so thankful for everyone that tries to do what they can, because we understand that you can only do so much, but it's the thought, it counts, and we take that all in.
Well, thank you so much, and hopefully we'll get some closure for you. And if you have any tips or you have any information, it's going to be posted in the show notes. You can reach out to us directly. We'll get you the information you need to make the report. Like we said, it can be anonymous. It doesn't have to be, but it can be. There's a reward, so please reach out if you have any information or you're just curious on how to report things, or if you need help getting information for another case that you need information for. I know you're a great resource. You've done that, so we can point them in the right direction that way too. But our whole goal is to make the community a better place, and I think with people working together, we can do that. So,
on November 13th, 2021, around 11:30 p.m. at the intersection of Arenal Road and Tapia Boulevard Southwest, a small black four-door sedan hit and run 20-year-old Marcos Baca. The vehicle that struck Marcos should have heavy damage on the passenger side rear door and fender, with possible scorch marks. If you know someone who has information about or witnessed the hit and run that killed Marcos, you could be eligible for a $7,500 reward. Please report any tips you may have to Crime Stoppers at 505-843-STOP or online at p3tips.com/531. You can remain anonymous. Thank you for your help. #Justice for Marcos. Thanks for listening to the What's Up ABQ podcast with Lindsay and Lorenzo. Every episode, we'll introduce you to places around the Duke City that we think you'll want to try out and tell your friends about. If you have an idea for a place that Lindsay and Lorenzo should feature, drop them a line on Instagram at ABQWhat'sUp. Whether it's a restaurant, a place to get suds, an upcoming event, or just a nifty little place that you came across, we want to hear about it. And if you have a business and want to get some extra attention in the podcast, get in touch with us about sponsorships. Leave us a review or comment on your favorite podcast platform. The podcast is edited and mastered by Paul Nixon at paulnixonvo.com. Until next time, thanks for listening and subscribing to What's Up ABQ.